Maritime incidents occurred at opposite ends of Russia, involve a Chinese cargo ship and Russian Shadow Fleet's Antigua-flagged tanker, both carrying fuel oil, with one vessel grounded near Sakhalin and another at Ust-Luga port. On the 15th of December 2024, two Russian river tankers, Volgoneft-212 and Volgoneft-239, sank in the Kerch Strait, spilling 4,300 tons of fuel. By January, oil-blackened beaches stretched from Russia's Krasnodar Krai to occupied Crimea's Sevastopol. Under Western sanctions, Russia increasingly relies on aging, foreign-flagged tankers in its shadow fleet, facing frequent technical failures and posing growing environmental and security risks, with these unregulated vessels also linked to the Baltic Sea sabotage. The Helsinki Maritime Court has ordered a double arrest on the oil tanker Eagle S based on potential liability for damages. Finnish authorities Eagle S, sailing under the Cook Islands flag after it departed Russia and reportedly caused damage to the Estlink 2 power cable between Estonia and Finland on Christmas Day while moving over the cable. In a Pacific incident, a Chinese bulk carrier, Anyang 2, has been aground near Sakhalin Island coast, close to the Russian port of Nevelsk, Russian telegram channels Baza and Astra reported on the 9th of February. According to Baza, the vessel, carrying 56 tons of diesel fuel, 706 tons of mazut, a low-quality heavy fuel oil, and 1,000 tons of coal, sustained hull damage in southern Sakhalin Oblast's Nevelsk district, facing northern Japan. The ship, with 20 crew members, reportedly ran aground south of Nevelsk port. Russia's emergency ministry claimed there are no fuel spills and work is underway to refloat the vessel. Local sources report communication difficulties with the Chinese crew due to translation issues, telegram channels noted. In a Baltic incident, the Koala crude oil tanker carrying the mazut is sinking at the port of Ust-Luga in Leningrad Oblast, Fontanka reported. Baza says the vessel carries 130 tons of fuel. While the channel's sources claim multiple explosions occurred in the engine room, Fontanka has not confirmed this information. Leningrad Oblast Governor Alexander Drozdenko confirmed a technical incident during engine startup damaged the vessel's engine room. The tanker, flying the flag of Antigua and Barbuda, has a crew of 24, including 4 Russians, 8 Georgians and 12 Indonesians. The Mash Namoik telegram channel reports the vessel has run aground and the crew has been fully evacuated. Preliminary data indicates no fuel leaks. The situation in Chasiv Yar is difficult. The occupiers have increased the activity of assaults by 97%. They are attacking the positions of the Ukrainian armed forces, losing from 50 to 100 soldiers per day. The enemy has increased the number of drones, conducting reconnaissance closer to midday in case of clear weather. This was stated on air by the spokesman of the Operational Tactical Group of Troops Lugansk, Dmitry Zaporozhets. The story indicated that the Ukrainian armed forces had to retreat from the stadium and fighting is underway for multi-story buildings. Ukrainian defenders control 1.5 residential blocks. Zaporozhets did not rule out that the command was considering options without a retreat. Then the next defensive hub would be Konstantinovka. The necessary defensive structures are already being built around the city and inside. The fighting in Chasiv Yar was shown from UAV cameras in the telegram channel of the Operational Tactical Group of Troops Khortytsa. The aircraft of the 18th Slavyansk Brigade of the Ukraine effectively destroyed the Russian invaders. The streets of Chasiv Yar have become hell for the occupiers, the publication emphasized. Russian assault operations near the eastern Ukrainian city of Toretsk in Donetsk Oblast have increased by 30% compared to December 2024. While attacks in the Chasiv Yar area have nearly doubled, a Ukrainian military spokesman reported. According to Zaporozhets, while the Russians actively used armored vehicles in early January, their usage has decreased since last week. Following the destruction of most enemy armor, the occupiers have switched to light vehicles for logistics operations. It's not always possible to destroy such equipment because of smaller dimensions and higher speed. This includes quad bikes, motorcycles and other vehicles. Destruction is complicated by weather conditions, including warm winter temperatures, high humidity and fog, Zaporozhets explained. The spokesman also reported that Russians are forcing civilians in Toretsk to collect bodies of killed Russian servicemen. They are forcing civilians to participate in evacuation measures and collect occupiers' bodies for relocation to certain locations, he said. The ISW reported that Ukrainian forces recently advanced near Toretsk and Russian forces recently advanced near Lyman, Siversk, Chasiv Yar, Pokrovsk, and Velika Novosilka. Ukraine lacks the manpower to man the frontline trenches in Donetsk Oblast, but the Ukrainian armed forces have an abundance of drones, which Ukraine is now relying on to make up for the lack of infantry. As the Wall Street Journal reports, the war has now become a contest between Russian infantry and Ukrainian drones. As Russian soldiers advance toward Ukrainian positions, explosive drones are aimed at them, and larger drones drop bombs on them. Infantry open fire only when the occasional Russian soldier manages to slip past the drones, the Wall Street Journal writes. Thus, in some rural areas, Ukrainian drone pilots can practically defend the front line on their own. As the battalion commander, senior lieutenant with the call sign Munin, told the publication, the increase in the number of drones allowed his battalion to relieve pressure on the infantry. So, if a year ago his team could launch 15 FPV drones with a first-person view on a difficult day, now they can send at least 60 on a normal day. In addition, many drones are now equipped with thermal imaging cameras, which makes it easy to detect Russian attacks at night. However, according to Munin, the Russians seem to have unlimited manpower and continue to send people ahead in small groups that can more easily slip past the UAVs. In addition, Russian electronic warfare systems sometimes shoot down Ukrainian drones. On rainy or foggy days, most drones cannot fly, giving Russian forces the opportunity to launch larger offensives with armored vehicles. When the leaves cover the trees again in the spring, Russian infantry will also be harder to detect with drones. At the same time, the Russians also have their own army drones. For example, a medic working in the Pokrovsk area says that about 70% of Ukrainian losses in this area are due to drone strikes. In open terrain, drones have a relatively easy time spotting Russian infantry trying to advance. But in the towns and villages around Pokrovsk, where there are more buildings where Russians can hide from drones, infantry is indispensable. As the military notes, drones cannot replace people. They can disrupt the enemy's attack, but not stop it completely, the battalion commander told the publication. At the same time, without drone support, the situation would be terrible, he added. The Russians now outnumber the Ukrainians at the front about 10-1. Fighters say, but growing stockpiles of drones and a small influx of new troops are allowing them to continue to fight the Russian advance. For every Ukrainian soldier wounded or killed, the Russians suffer at least 7 casualties, according to one brigade commander, but he added that Kiev would need 10 times as many troops to stop the Russian army completely. Commanders around Pokrovsk say the quality of reinforcements has also become a problem. Most of those arriving are recent conscripts in their 40s and 50s who lack the motivation to fight. Some, they say, are abandoning positions or refusing to go into the frontline trenches. One brigade commander said 30 men of the quality he had at the start of the war would be more effective than the 100 he has now.